Humans went from throwing rocks at mammoths to throwing nukes at each other in just 12,000 years. Buckle up, because we're about to speed run the entire disaster that is human civilization. Let's go. Level 1, the Stone Age era. Imagine you're naked, cold, and a saber-toothed tiger wants you for dinner. Your brilliant solution? Grab a rock and hope for the best. Welcome to humanity's first age, where our ancestors discovered fire, invented the wheel, and somehow survived despite having the collective survival skills of a drunk toddler. The Paleolithic era was basically 2.5 million years of trial and error, mostly error. These folks figured out how to make tools by smashing rocks together until something sharp happened. Revolutionary stuff. They painted cave walls because apparently even cavemen needed social media. The Lascaux cave paintings from 17,000 years ago. Humans literally invented art before they invented agriculture. Priorities, people. The Neolithic Revolution changed everything when some genius around 10,000 BCE thought, hey, what if instead of chasing our food, we made it come to us? Agriculture was born, and suddenly humans went from nomadic wanderers to, let's build permanent settlements and complain about property taxes. This is humanity's origin story. We've been winging it from day one, and somehow that's worked out. Level 2, Ancient Civilizations era. Now humans had food figured out, so naturally they started building pyramids, worshipping cats, and inventing bureaucracy. Because nothing says advanced civilization like creating the world's first middle management. Mesopotamia, 3500 BCE, gave us writing, cities, and the first recorded complaint letter. Seriously, there's a 4,000-year-old clay tablet where a guy named Nanny absolutely roasts a copper merchant for selling him garbage metal. Customer service problems are eternal. Ancient Egypt built monuments that still make modern engineers cry, then spent 3,000 years obsessing over death and cats. They mummified everything: pharaohs, nobles, cats, even crocodiles. Ancient Egyptians were basically the ultimate preppers. Greece and Rome invented democracy, philosophy, and crucially, the art of talking yourself into believing you're civilized while enslaving half the population. Rome perfected this by building beautiful aqueducts while also perfecting the art of feeding people to lions for entertainment. Notice how every advanced civilization was built on the backs of slaves, women, and conquered peoples, but somehow the history books focus on the pretty buildings and smart guys in togas. Humans discovered that organizing into cities meant you could accomplish amazing things, and also systematically oppress people on an industrial scale. Level 3, Medieval Times era. After Rome collapsed, Europe entered what historians politely call the Dark Ages, which is code for everyone forgot how to read and decided mud huts were acceptable architecture. Feudalism was humanity's brilliant idea to organize society like a pyramid scheme where everyone owes everything to someone above them, and the guy at the top claims God personally handed him the deed to everything. Genius. The Crusades were basically medieval Europe's version of, let's start a war for religious reasons, but definitely not for the trade routes and land. They failed spectacularly, but hey, at least they got some new spices out of it. The Black Death killed 1/3 of Europe, and somehow people's response was, this must be God's punishment, rather than maybe we should stop throwing our waste in the streets. Medieval problem-solving at its finest. The Islamic Golden Age was preserving Greek knowledge, inventing algebra, and performing surgery while Europe was debating whether bathing was sinful. Perspective matters. This era proves that human progress isn't linear. Sometimes entire continents just forget how to civilization for a few centuries. Level 4, Renaissance and Enlightenment era. Suddenly Europe remembered books existed and had the audacity to call it a rebirth of learning. The Renaissance was humanity's teenagers discovering philosophy phase. Lots of big ideas, artistic expression, and absolutely zero understanding of consequences. The Renaissance gave us Leonardo da Vinci designing helicopters 400 years before engines existed, while Michelangelo painted naked people on church ceilings and somehow convinced the Pope this was holy art. Peak human energy. The age of exploration was Europeans realizing there were entire continents full of people and resources they hadn't subjugated yet. Columbus got lost looking for India, accidentally discovered America, and Europeans spent the next 300 years calling that a win while systematically destroying indigenous civilizations. The Enlightenment introduced radical concepts like, maybe kings aren't chosen by God, and perhaps we should use reason instead of just making stuff up. Revolutionary thinking that led to the scientific revolution. Humans finally started testing their theories instead of just arguing about them. Galileo pointed a telescope at space and said, actually, we're not the center of the universe, and got arrested for it. Some things never change. This period was humanity's "we're so smart now" phase, right before they used all that knowledge to build better weapons and more efficient ways to exploit each other. Level 5. Industrial Revolution Era. The 1700s to 1800s were when humans looked at nature and said, you know what this needs? Smokestacks and child labor. The Industrial Revolution transformed everything, and not necessarily for the better. Steam power meant humans could finally harness energy beyond make animals do it or pray for wind. Suddenly you could mass-produce everything, which sounds great until you realize everything included pollution, urban slums, and working conditions that made medieval serfdom look appealing. Manchester, England became the world's first industrial city, and also the world's first example of why progress doesn't always mean improvement. The air was so polluted that white moths evolved to be black to hide on soot-covered trees. Even the bugs had to adapt to human stupidity. The factory system created the modern working class, which immediately realized they were getting screwed and invented labor unions. Capitalists responded by hiring private armies to shoot striking workers. The good old days. Global impact. This revolution required massive amounts of raw materials, which meant colonizing everyone who had them. Nothing says civilized like building your prosperity on systematic exploitation of entire continents. Humans finally figured out how to make machines do the work, then somehow made life harder for everyone except the machine owners. Level 6. Modern Era. The 20th and 21st centuries are humanity's hold my beer moment. We went from horses to space travel in 70 years, then spent the rest of the time figuring out increasingly creative ways to almost end civilization. World wars proved that giving industrial technology to humans with nationalism is like giving nuclear weapons to toddlers. World War I was so horrific they called it the war to end all wars, then immediately started planning World War II. The nuclear age began when humans split the atom, and their first thought was, let's make a bomb. We now have enough nukes to destroy Earth several times over, because apparently once wasn't enough insurance. The digital revolution connected every human on the planet, and we immediately used it to argue about politics, spread conspiracy theories, and watch cat videos. The internet gave everyone access to all human knowledge, and somehow made us collectively dumber. Climate change is our latest masterpiece. We figured out how to accidentally terraform our own planet into something uninhabitable while arguing about whether it's really happening. Modern examples. We have computers in our pockets more powerful than what sent humans to the moon, and we use them to take pictures of our food. We've mapped the human genome but can't figure out universal healthcare. We can edit genes but still have wars over imaginary lines on maps. We've achieved technological godhood while maintaining the emotional maturity of angry chimps. It's honestly impressive how badly we fumbled this. Here's the thing, every single age follows the same pattern. Humans develop new capabilities, immediately use them to gain power over other humans, create systems that benefit a few while screwing over many, then act surprised when everything falls apart. Stone Age. Sharp rocks for hunting became sharp rocks for murdering neighbors. Ancient times. Agricultural surplus became wealth inequality and empire building. Medieval, religious authority became political control and holy wars. Renaissance. New knowledge became better colonization techniques. Industrial. Steam power became economic exploitation and environmental destruction. Modern. Digital connection became surveillance and manipulation. We're not in different ages, we're in the same age with better tools. Technology changes, but humans? We're still the same clever, destructive, occasionally brilliant apes we've always been. Are we learning from any of this or just getting better at making the same mistakes faster? Drop a comment. Which age do you think humanity peaked? Or are we still climbing or falling? And hit subscribe because apparently watching civilization speed run itself into chaos is peak entertainment.